Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the SE Journey and our new dance club. My name is Chris Sprigg. Got my co-host over there, Zane Allen. How you doing, Zane?
Great, Chris. Yep, back again. Yeah, we got a Dance Club Mudra over here. Joined by our good friend, ex-colleague, Mr. Mudra, Joe Mudra from the Ohio, right? Is that where you're out of, Ohio?
Yeah, OHIO.
OHIO. Is that the actual pronunciation of that place? That's cool.
No,
excited
in
again to
Ohio,
get into this.
if you yell OH anywhere in Ohio, you're going to get answered with IO. Ohio State
right?
Buckeyes. Yeah. They're crazy in this town about that.
It's like that Texas thing, right? Deep in the heart. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we don't have that in Washington. You'll double it. WA, they'll just look at you funny. But great. No, welcome to the SE Journey as we derail from there, and excited to be back here where we discuss this process of how people become SEs, right? This concept of system engineering, sales engineering, whatever you want to call it, solution architects, and how we all kind of got here, right? As we've normally say, Chris and I are the thought we don't all get it from the same path, but that's what we're kind of setting out to find out here by talking to people we know in the industry, good friends, people we've worked with, and learn that point as we go along. And we have Joe Mudra here, who used to work with Chris and I at Veeam Software, right? A lot of people, pretty reoccurring theme on this show, but doesn't anymore. And we'll talk about that journey as we get into it.
And yeah, Joe, do you want to just introduce yourself and what your current role is?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, thanks guys, and thanks for having me on. Currently I'm working for Arctic Wolf Networks. We are a cybersecurity company, which is everybody knows in IT right now, cybersecurity is a hot thing.
A little pertinent.
You want to elaborate? What's this cybersecurity stuff?
Right, exactly. It's been kind of a crazy week, even in cybersecurity this week.
Oh, that might be an interesting topic. We'll just make this the Log4j podcast.
Right, exactly. We could do the entire podcast on that. But yeah, you guys know I worked with you guys at Veeam. Gosh, I don't know. I got a plaque up there that says how many years I was there. Over 5. That's the last one I have up there.
Nice.
That's where I stopped. Yeah, you and I were in John Care together, which was our little Veeam boot camp training. So yeah.
Are we allowed to mention John Care on the podcast?
Oh, we did that once before too. We might get sued in the future, but it's all positive stuff, John.
Yeah, we love
the program.
No, you know what's interesting, and going along, and even with other SEs that I've met out in the industry, I've met others that have actually been through John Care and love it just as much as we all do. And I know Chris and Zane, we've talked about it a lot and just how much that influenced us. Have you guys actually talked about that process on the show before?
We have not. That is a great idea. I probably have to think about that. Not trying to resell John Care's process, but
right.
But the idea of I guess not unlike what we're doing here. Yeah, he was a sales engineer and he just kind of found that methodology and tried to boil it down to a process, and then he teaches others. So lots of us in the industry have gone through his training or at least read his book. Right. I encourage anybody out there think about SE or is an SE wants to get better. Go pick up his book. I think he actually even has a newer version of it, right? Like a newer edition since I've been through it. Or us, all of us.
It has clouds in it.
Yeah, and
we're not sponsored by John Care. Maybe we'll work on that.
No, and I was going to say it's all just free marketing, right? Because we all really liked it. Like, to your point, Joe, it was, I think pretty profound for all of us. And if you really want to learn how to become a better SE and the skills that go into it, that's really what he focuses on. And there's a couple out there as well, where we more focus on, hey, what was the journey to get here?
Yeah.
How may I get there? So I actually think it is very complimentary, not trying to compete with John Care at all.
This segment was not brought to you by John Care. We're not going to do it. This segment brought to you by.
Right.
No, that's absolutely right. Right.
When it goes out,
we're more talking
for a little bit, and then we're going to cut back in the stuff we had to cut out. All right, we're back.
We're going to blur out logos and things. Yeah. No, we're talking more about the journey, right? Because Chris and I sat down some time ago, and like people come from this realm, they come from IT, maybe they come from sales. I know we have some examples of that, and hope to get those guests on the show as well. How they fell into it, because as I usually say, you weren't probably a child saying I want to be an SE, right? It's fireman or SE, right? As I always say. You kind of learn about it, and then you either draw to this. We believe you draw to this lifestyle, or if you will, I think it's like a lifestyle, this industry, if you will, or you don't. That's what we're setting to find out.
And I've listened. I listened to a couple of your other our other old colleagues on your show before.
Right.
And it's interesting to me because the journeys all sound fairly similar, and mine's going to be very similar to theirs as well, right?
So we may be wrong. You're right.
Right.
We may be wrong. It's all the
same.
And I noticed that as well, though. And I think it might just be some of the people that we've brought on and who we know. But yeah, you're right. I was surprised by that. I'm like, wow, they do sound pretty similar. Maybe we're not that far different of people, but that's what we kind of want to uncover here.
To how you get here, right? There is a definite nurture path to this, right? Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't come out. I always said I wanted to work on computers, but I had no clue what that meant, right? Like in high school, I was like, I want to work in computers.
Like,
and not really having an idea of what that meant.
Yeah. Right.
And then when I went to college, there was you could either do like hardcore programming, or there was like management information systems or telco. And there wasn't really a track that attracted me one way or the other. And at the same time, I started working for the school, the IT department at the school.
Which one were you studying? You were studying one of those tracks?
My degree was one, I wrote my own degree. And a good big chunk of that degree was work study at the university and working for the internal IT at the university.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. I had a very similar. I wanted to go into computers and go into college. People are like, "Well, computer science, what you want to do then?" And you realize, okay, that's very heavy programming and machine language, and there's awesome stuff to learn there. But I wanted to be a little broader and more hands-on, and you're right. Then the other one was like information systems or whatever that, and then actually the university where I ended up finishing my degree combined systems information, the communications one you were talking about, and networking into one, and called it IT management.
Yeah, nice.
And so by the time they kind of roped all that together, it was a little more interesting to me. That's what I ended up getting my degree in. But yeah, still nothing like, hey, be a consultant, be an SE, right?
No.
So.
No, and even back then, I didn't know a job like this existed in school. But in college days, I didn't know there was a job doing this. Maybe the question is, was there even back then? Like, was there an NT4 SE? I'm sure there was out there somewhere.
Somebody teaching you Novell Networks or
we know Novell SEs.
Word processing typewriters. I don't know, IBM back in the day. I'm sure somebody had to help you with iSeries, the big database, mainframe type stuff and things like that. That would be stuff to ask Mr. Kerr about, huh? I think that's kind of what he did.
Right.
Similar in college. Actually, I got I'll say the program I was in, which actually turned into a information assurance program. So more about security, really big. It's actually funded by a grant by the NSA and all that. So like cybersecurity for government and things. But I actually had a great class that was project management, implementation of an SAP system is what it was. And we actually got access to SAP, had to kind of do a pitch. And the whole class, the professor, he was a professor, doctor at the time. I ended up working for him later. He actually just covers an implementation where, he was the customer, but it was how sales interacted, and they took him out to dinners, and then the whole sales process he walked you through, and then implementation and how you get cut. Like, it was interesting. So I actually had one class where I got this glimpse into, and I was working in IT too, so I'd been on dealt with vendors at that point because I was a customer. But anyway, was very interesting. But I think that's a unique thing, right? Because he just had the experience, so he's like, "Well, let me tell you about this."
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But it was one class. Otherwise, yeah, it was decision science, and here's what networks look like, and here's the OSI model, and blah blah blah. And here's your A+ class. That's fun. Let's build a computer together. So that's interesting. I mean, we never focused on the educational side here, Chris. I like that. We should take notes. Maybe that's the difference.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know.
Otherwise, everybody else is the same, as we're finding out.
I mean, not to knock on my school, but I think I learned more from working over the years than I did from actually like being involved in it and seeing it 100%. As a kind of a business process and such. And I definitely spent my time messing around during all those times too. That was fun. We got to drive the cars at students down at OU, and so when it was springtime out, we'd find the tickets that were on College Green, where everyone would lay out and play volleyball, and we'd go take the tickets up there. Yeah. That green needs a lot of working on. We're going to go over that way and help all those guys out.
You're hitting up everybody. Hey, I'm Joe. Anything you need at all with IT, just call us. Just put a ticket in. We'll be right here. Anything. A lot of fixing Napster and stuff back then, right? I'm not trying to date you, but
no, that's pretty accurate.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
definitely dates me.
Pre-Napster, when everybody just had file sharing in universities, and just here, look, everybody's open files. This is odd.
Yeah. Nice.
So how did you, Joe? Before you get into, I'll let you tell your journey here, but you mentioned, which I think all of us, we didn't know what an SE was in college or what that was. So when did you finally hear about? Realize what the job was?
Yeah, and frankly, I did. I mean, it took me a little while to like actually figure out what I wanted to do, even though I was kind of working in that IT shop in school. Right. And I bet a lot of people are experiencing this today, like kind of coming out of school and being like, okay, I got a 4-year degree in some sort of information tech or something in technology. Now what? I was kind of in those shoes too, but I didn't have my degree yet. I was an idiot back then and had like 9 hours left and moved back to Columbus without finishing. But I did, from the experience I had working at the university, I was able to get a job in a support desk then. And from there, it was kind of, I really started to learn. I mean, it was a large company, and I really started to learn how things were working in IT. And another big thing about that support desk, and a lot of guys that came in around that same time in that support desk are around the community now, working in very higher level positions in IT. Senior admins, managers. SEs around the Columbus area. And I really think it was because when we first got in there, it was ingrained in our brains that we were a one-stop shop. So a customer calls us. It doesn't matter if the server's down and that's the problem. You're going to hold on to this ticket and you're going to walk it through and make sure that the server administrators know what's going on. You're communicating that back to the pharmacy, and that, I think, taught us all like a level of accountability for what we were working on. But yeah, so like
the follow through, if you will, like take it
ownership on
ownership. Yeah.
Right. And I spent about 7 years there. Not in that support desk role. It took about a year before I got out of that support desk role. From there, I kind of got into, we called it the Wintel team. So it'd be more like Windows Server administration. And we're talking large environment here, enterprise size environment. So we were doing all the Windows administration, but then I got into the fax delivery side of things, and that was our line of business system. We were a pharmaceutical provider for long-term care facilities. That's how we got every single order that we were going to send out and made money on. Wow. So it became a quick learning curve on how to try to craft something up that is going to have zero downtime. Working with the technology
highly
that
available
inherently has a
fax
whole
farm
crap load of problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
High availability facsimile. Is that what it is? That's awesome.
Yeah, man, we were doing 6 million pages a month of faxes.
Wow.
We were in the business of killing trees, man.
And it came out on paper too. I was going to ask that. It wasn't like digital and it went to nope, just.
Yeah, we managed a giant
Shades of
database
papers.
that it would, if it went to a certain phone number, went to, from a certain phone number, it had to spit out on a certain piece of paper on a certain bin so that the pharmacy knew how to deal with it. For
That's
thousands
amazing.
and
Someone was,
thousands of
focus on
printers.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, now I get it. So go to different delivery. It's almost
Yeah.
like a ticket would come out and then they know how to.
Well, back then, that was in the U.S. That was the only way all state board of pharmacies would approve the delivery of a prescription from a doctor to a pharmacist.
Okay.
At least you're working with two technologies that never have issues, right? Phone lines and printers.
Yeah, and then that nice
Slash
thing, that
sarcasm.
phone line printer thing that comes together, the fax. Yeah, those always work that well.
But that was great for my career. Like it really taught me. We had to come up with proposals on how to improve our system. So we were coming up with millions of dollars and requesting millions of dollars of money for servers and infrastructure so we could beef this thing up. Having to justify that, going through the process of having this stuff go down, and what do you do? All of those were learning experiences. They were pretty painful at the time, but looking back, I'm glad they happened.
Glad they happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I can look back to a lot of times in IT when I'd be in the middle of it, like, what am I doing? Why did I choose this? If I walked away right now, what else could I go do? But then you got to the end of the problem, and I don't know, you wanted more for something.
Yeah, right.
And if nothing goes wrong, I never learned anything. So
Yeah.
you're right. All valuable. Glad I don't do it anymore. But yeah, I agree with that.
But getting back to Chris's question, kind of like in that process of coming up with all of that, right? So like trying to figure out what servers we're going to go with, trying to, and you guys have done that process, acquiring gear. You're starting to talk to those people then that are on our side of the fence now, right? So you're starting to meet people that are in those roles. And that's really when it started. When I started meeting people that were in those roles and, learned what they did. And at the time, my knowledge was way less than I have today. But like, I was like, man, those guys, I looked up to them at the time. I was like, oh yeah, they really know everything. And, I got a question, they got an answer. If they don't, they get back to me with an answer right away. Like, they're awesome. I want to be that.
I want to be that. I want to be that when I grow up. Yeah.
My first thought was when I first realized kind of what these roles were, sales engineering, I hadn't actually even thought about being one. I thought about more of the like managed service provider or the value added resellers out there. And I was telling all the guys I work with, like, we should go start one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we're all here doing it. And those guys that come in and help us, like, they're doing it. They know their stuff. They're making money. I hadn't even crossed my mind just to like go be an SE somewhere. Yeah. Even at that point when I first realized, so
I'm going to put all these solutions together. It's going to be great. Yeah. Good old value-added resellers. I got to skip that in my career. I did manage service provider, but I skipped the value-added reseller. But
yeah,
we all had that. We were all marching towards it. I was trying to start my own as well. So yeah, that's where you all kind of start thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with a lot of guys that ran their own kind of side business doing something similar, right? Like it seems like everybody in IT kind of runs some sort of little side hustle.
A little hustle.
Yeah.
Yep.
That seems to be another
come in
common.
on a weekend, fix your Wi-Fi. Sure, I'll put your
even if you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my friend of a friend has some Outlook issues. Could you go, dude?
Like, I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be great.
I honestly tell people I don't do desktop work. No. I don't know how the laptop stuff works. I work on big systems, and they buy it because they don't know any better.
I have an IT department. Yeah. I do hate when you have to fix those things.
Who was the comedian? There's a comedian that does a skit about that when he's talking to his mom in like Singapore. Oh gosh, I'll have to look it up. We're going to plug that too here because it's an amazing
tangent. We're gonna have to put a show in the link in the show notes.
Yeah,
to go see that comedian.
I'll find it before we're done here.
So you ran into vendors, SCs at the fax. It's not a fax place, but we're gonna.
It wasn't a fax place. It was an IT shop, but I was one of the two unlucky guys that got the tall task of running that system.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I started to learn about that. I didn't really learn really what those people, what we did, probably until several years later. And I made a couple other job changes. I had a really a great knack for picking out new businesses that I wanted to work for that were going to get bought or sold or go out of business within the next 6 months to a year. So I had a strain, which at the time, I was all bent out of shape about it. I was like, people are going to look at my resume and they're going to be like, you keep job hopping and it's awful.
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't realize, and I guess this would be advice.
You made it so efficient.
What's that?
You tell me it's because you made it so efficient in IT that, they were.
Yeah, I didn't go that route. I just told them the story. I was like, well, that place, they went out of business. This place, they got bought. This place, All
right. That's fair.
But what I didn't realize is every single place I went into, we were always doing the same thing, which is trying to architect the best, IT environment we could with the budget we had. And I was always looking at a new stack. Right. So I was always getting my hand on a new set of switches, a new set of, storage fabric, a new set of, arrays
from each hop.
Top down, pretty much everything now. Hey, this is your stuff. Make sure it works.
Similar concepts, different manufacturer, different way to approach it. Wow. You're almost seeing a lot of networks well before maybe some of us, right? Because, you do that as an SE, as we get into, you see everybody.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So you said two things there that I want to comment on. One, I kind of had the opposite. I've never been, I like to stick around for a while. I've never been the, person to be like, I got a job hop to get what I want. Although recently maybe it feels that way. When I first,
either, to be fair, he kept going.
Yeah. When I first, you were explaining like why certain jobs, certain ones don't work out because they go on, .coms went under, blah, blah. I actually had the opposite experience trying to come be an SE. They were like, oh, you have almost, a decade, almost 10 years at the current job. Right. That's a long time. You tend to get stagnant and not know new technologies. And so brings me to the other point you said, learning new stuff. So, lucky for me, I liked to learn new stuff. So I was keeping up and I had examples of new things, even though they were kind of like, man, we'd rather you be moving and be learning new stuff instead of, I was kind of blown aback. If you can't tell, they were like, oh, you decade at one job. That's a downside rather than an upside. I had never thought of it that way. But yeah, so the other side of that is keep up on current things, right? Even if you're in the same job, it doesn't mean you can't keep up to date on current things. And that is important. I guess my point is that's important for any of these roles. You do need to be up to date.
Try to almost have like multiple jobs in that job if you can, right? Like, hey, I took care of this system, or take care of this system now. I've done this project. Yeah. You got to say yes for a lot of things in your early career. That's very beneficial, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. And that I will say back in the sort of early days, that first place I worked, I was there for a while. When I moved into that kind of fax team, one of the things that started coming up was virtualization, and no one really wanted to mess with it. And I was looking for other things to do other than work on this fax, system. And so I kind of gobbled it up, and that was another area where I really started to take off because you have to know so much more of the stack in order to effectively put something like that together. Whereas, hey, if you're a, Windows OS administrator and you're just administrating the Windows, stack inside of an environment, you're missing out on some pieces there. And so those pieces were, crash course and those other pieces of the stack real quick. In an environment that doesn't allow very much tolerance for any downtime, which also helps you in making sure you don't screw things up. But I did. I still screwed things up.
Yeah, as long as you don't do it again. How much of that, and this is, I didn't, just kind of throw you a curveball here. How much of that, because this is kind of what it did for me, also let you know what you don't like about IT, right? Like, I really think
Oh, yeah.
this networking is the thing for me, databases, and you're like, nope. So having kind of that broad, you can figure out. Like I used to explain IT like that. It's very broad. You can go across the board, and then you can specialize wherever you want. And there's just so many different avenues. So I'm just curious how much, if you feel the same way. Like, hey, if you go across the board, you can tell what you don't like, what you do like before you, get more specialized.
Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with backups.
Yeah, the same story, but I kept falling into backup.
Yeah, and so I used to tell people that karma was punishing me for always crapping on the backup admins back in my early days.
Yeah.
You end up at a backup company.
Yeah, I am now a data protection architect. Yeah,
That's right, Chris.
Now I love. Yeah, exactly. I went from one extreme to the other.
Now he's like one of a few select people that actually is the specialist at our company for that. So it's like, oh, well. And I got to know all of them. Okay, sure.
Well, I got my, my VMCA while I was at my new job.
Oh, yeah? You did, just recently.
We share.
Yeah.
We share that same.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Both Dane and I did.
Joe and I were inside there. We worked on the VMCA at Veeam backseat, and so we got great.
You're honorary
member.
They released it to you automatically. I actually had to go, hey, remember I was working on that? Like, oh yeah, here you go. We turned it on. We just didn't know how to get a hold of you. Like, thank you. So that was pretty cool. But I agree. I'm just like you.
I mean,
I got it before all of you Veeam people.
Yeah. That wasn't why I was helping out, but yeah, it was a nice surprise.
No, that was cool. That was a great experience. Thinking about experiences to take your product. I'm sorry, I'm totally derailing this, but speaking of saying yes, like even in my advanced career or whatever, older here, longer in my career, 5 years at Veeam, to go on that project, and we would meet every week, every other week. We met for a while. It was over a course.
Yeah, I mean, it took us.
Really test your knowledge
to get through,
diving into it.
Yeah.
We had conversations. There was that one time whole dissertations on why it should be a certain way. It would come up. It was an amazing process.
Yeah,
there's a lot of value. So continuing education. Even though we say, hey, early in your career, I did say yes. You should continue to do that as you grow up, even when you start specializing. It's just going to be different types of projects, right?
As you grow up.
Skills. As you grow up. I'm trying. I'm still working on growing up, but yeah, we're getting there.
Well, yeah, that goes back to who was saying that earlier, saying yes to a lot of stuff. You were saying that, Zane. Yeah, just say yes. Right? Hey,
but I kind of implied say it early. You probably should continue to do it. You just say yes to not fixing desktops. Now you say yes to special projects. That sort of thing.
Except when those sales guys are gobbling up too much of your time. Nope. No, I'm just joking.
You gotta learn. No, but it sounds like you said yes to taking on the vSphere project, right?
Yeah, and then pretty much anything else that they would throw my way. Not backups. No, I'm joking.
It's not backups. You avoided those. Good for you.
Yeah, but then as I moved on, I went from a super big company to smaller places, and the smaller places were interesting too because. The stacks were smaller, and I really got to get my hands into all the nitty gritty stuff inside the stack, right? When you're at a huge enterprise shop, you really can kind of get pigeonholed into your corner, swim in your lane. Yeah. We got our lane. So, I mean, that was another thing that really helped. Looking back, I didn't think so at the time, but going from that enterprise size to being responsible for all of it then, where I'm responsible for a subset of it was it was a learning experience again, having to figure it all out.
Yeah. And I kind of did the opposite. And you get into a big enterprise where there's kind of almost silos or everyone's in a group and you're like, oh, now I have to wait for someone else to do the ACLs, and I have to wait for someone else to do the firewall rules. And man, how many days does that can take? I could just go in and do it, you know. So yeah,
that darn change control and separation of duties really really messes up your learning experience. Yeah, yeah. But that's a good point, right? You could say, I've only have experience in small, but small also lets you figure out how to be.
But in big, speaking of change controls, I did have a guy once want me to shut down all vMotions on vSphere, and he was like, it can never move anything, not without putting in a change control. And I'm like, wait, you got to understand, we have this design so it does this all day, every day. It does this on purpose. I'm not vMotion in machines. Like,
can our DRS have a change
that's what
control attached to it? Yeah.
Were you using DRS? Or
yeah. We were using DRS, but it was designed perfectly. It was fine. Yeah. They weren't losing anything with DRS.
No, I've definitely been in shops where it's like, no, we can't let it do that. Right? We want to vMotion it when and where we want.
Yeah. It depends on the machine. This wasn't this wasn't a cluster. The sticking point was I needed to do maintenance on one of the hosts. What's that impact? And I was like, we just vMotion machines off, and I'll do the maintenance. Well, what does vMotion mean? And I was like, it happens all the time. We move the machine over here for compute. And he was like, well, wait, like, you can't do that. You can't move. Yeah. Mind blown.
What are you doing?
Well, you need to turn all that off. Moving? I was like, I don't think we paid to turn off. Like, we bought way too much stuff, and we're just going to turn that off.
Wow, that's interesting. This was probably early, right? So
this was early on.
Understanding really what that virtualization provided for me. Yeah, I'm not moving it to like somebody else's house or a data center. It's all within our.
Do you realize I'm not going to pick it up and move it, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to touch it. It's move it over here.
Reusing. Okay. That's a matter of education there. Man, they would have really loved Kubernetes. So it just goes to a cloud provider? What? Huh? Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it's here. Anyway.
So Joe, was this smaller shop the next stop in your journey, or did we?
Oh no, yeah. So smaller shop, and then I kind of did that, jumping a little bit, right? Where the smaller shop, I was there probably a year. It was probably the smallest place I was at. We're talking probably, 1,200 users in the end user community. And then from there, went to another place. Again, we went through an acquisition at the new place. And then from there, went to another place where we were also eventually got downsized, right? But each of those, I was still like, the role was really like senior admin at each place. But in doing that, like I said, I touched, so everything from, back-end storage would have been HP, EMC, like all your big providers, IBM, and having to deal with those across a virtual stack, whether that be Hyper-V or VMware or, the networking top end of that being, HP at the one place. And, mostly Cisco otherwise. But yeah, like
what were those called? I remember those switches.
Oh my
God. Sell those.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yep.
But and it's sort of the last.
So place. Senior admin, but it's duties varied from place to place, basically.
Yeah. But I think the common theme was that honestly, I was like, whenever I worked for a place, I wanted to do the best for that business when it came to IT. And so that was always my focus. Right. And I wasn't, I was always willing to take on whatever, cockamamie project we come up with, right. Even if it's them like, all right, that doesn't, whatever, I'll grab it and let's do it and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. In IT, you get tossed a whole bunch of crazy stuff for sure.
What?
So it's like, hey, do you think you could do this? And I'm like, well, what's my budget? What's my time? I could probably. I got into an IP camera project because of that, and wireless because it costs too much to have an actual company do it. I'm like, it's just networking, right? Let's go for it. And then you're hanging off of roofs and stuff. You're like, I don't know why I said yes.
Oh, wait, you mounted all this stuff yourself too?
I was part of it. Yep.
Zane's
I actually got a great picture I'll share with you sometime. We had a pole.
He's got
out in the middle of
Yaggies.
It was great. I felt pretty. I have a one. I actually sent another guy up. We had a ladder, 90 degrees, like just almost perfectly straight, kind of strapped to a pole, so that we can make this ladder reach the site that we needed to get one camera up there.
Wow.
We made the security guy did it. He was a young guy. He's like, I'll do it, and we're just all holding the ladder, like, oh, we might be killing this guy. Anyway, but that's my story. Sorry. So yeah. I get you though. You're like, sure, it's networking. What could go wrong? Oh,
early on. Now, would you do it again? Is the question. That's how we have.
No.
No.
I don't make cables anymore either, Joe.
I thought you did.
So as you try to do better for the business, did that mean like just efficiency in IT, or did you try to learn the business side, or was it vendor management?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't
really trying to get at.
No, I just wanted IT to be awesome. I didn't care about the business side, I guess. Maybe that was my fault back then, but no. But
vendor management probably came in.
Try to understand the sort of the acquisition side of hardware or software.
Yeah.
For us, right, or for businesses, and kind of how that functioned, what those roles were, and then I started having people tell me like, hey. You know, you have a broader understanding of the of the goals for most of these places. Why aren't you on our side of the table talking to that with other people, with us, instead of here trying to talk to them about it? Almost like, well, they're not listening anyway, so come with us, and we'll show you other people who will listen.
See, that's a good point for everybody out there trying to think get to SE. We tend to the customers that work really well with us, we tend to want to bring them over the fence. Little secret out there, right? Like, we think we'd want them to stay at the customer because it's easier for us. Like, no, you should come do this, buddy. You're one of us. we I don't know. At least maybe the three on the panel. I know Chris and I. We like to make more SEs. We think that's great.
Well, no, and I love to see other people come from a more of a customer centric side into this side, because I think it provides new eyes and fresh ideas onto the SE side of the fence too. Not that you can't be an SE for your entire life and still be engaged and understand all of that, but there's definitely something to be said for SEs that have worked on the customer side for sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that the business side of things you weren't so interested in your early career. Do you think that's important for you as an SE?
Yeah. I mean, that definitely, and coming over to this side really helped me get a different perspective of that too, right? And so, you definitely have to put yourself in the shoes of your CIO, your director of IT, as we're talking with them, right? They have a ton of things in mind when it comes to budget and all of this. We have to be cognizant of that as we're talking to them too. I'd love for them just to buy my solution all the time and nothing else. However, that doesn't make a lot of sense for customers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might even be in a room, right? I would kind of go more into the SE skill, but where you have all of those representatives, and you almost have to get good at figuring out what's important to this position and what's important to that position, and kind of, adhere to cross them. And hopefully you have a champion in there that can help you, guide that way, but you don't always, right? Like, okay, the director cares about this, the VP cares about this, the IT admin cares about this, the backup guy, if it's backup, he doesn't want me here because he thinks his job's going right, or something like that, right? I gotta navigate this to make everybody happy. Or the security guy, maybe in your case, I don't know. He doesn't want me. He doesn't want me here. He thinks he's going to get fired, and we're like, no, man, your life's going to be better. It's going to be great, right? Yeah.
That's funny. I heard probably a few too many times that oh no, we love manually deploying thousands of agents everywhere. It's a great product. Oh, you love it, or you're afraid your job's going to disappear?
Yeah.
If
what will I do for 40 hours a week if I don't deploy agents manually? I get to fix them every day. It's great. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe I identified early I did not want to be doing that. Maybe you brought that up earlier. Do you identify the things you did not want to be doing? And I was like, yeah, some of those tasks. I don't want to be doing that. Desktop stuff, I think I shied away from really quick. We were talking about that previous to getting on here, weren't we? Desktop work, or I'd mentioned desktop work. I don't do it. I'm telling people, nope.
When I was running IT department, I would always put the person, I learned that earlier from a VP, like I put the person with the best bedside manner to go out and basically just, you're really dealing with the customer at that point, right?
Yep.
And you're helping them because it's just frustrating, whatever's happening. I get it. They're just trying to do a job. They don't understand why the thing doesn't want to respond, and they don't care. They just want it to work. They say they care, but they're like, hey, I just want this not to happen. And yeah, it takes a different skill set or focus. I agree. It's very important, but I'm with you.
I'm not saying I didn't have good bedside manner, though, if that's what you're trying to say.
No, I'm not saying, okay, I apologize. I'm not
joking.
You.
Yeah, but no,
it's like, hey, I just want to be able to do this and help the end customer. I like desktops. Hey, I had a guy on my team. He became, for the corporation we work for, he did across the country. We deployed SCCM. Like, he figured it out. He was just great at it, and that's what he did with his career. He loved it. I wanted to be, server switches, networks, infrastructure, and management. So it's a great role. I wasn't saying that, Joe. My apologies. But it takes difference. Yep. All right. I'll bring it back.
I don't remember what the heck we were talking about.
You learned the stuff you didn't want to do.
That's right.
But now we're on the vendor side. You started to learn the business side, what it means to the business, what it means to the different the tiers. But you didn't do that till you came over to the manufacturer side. Is that where?
Yeah, right. In order to call yourself a decent, senior admin of an infrastructure, you have to have some understanding of the sort of the business side and your acquisition of hardware, software, and that type of stuff. So yeah, there was some understanding. I guess when it comes to like sales processes and stuff like that, that was all foreign to me on this side. So like Zane, you were mentioning having like a class where they kind of ran through, hey, this is what a sales process looked like. When I came over on this side, they were talking about verticals and pipelines, and I was like, I don't know what my vertical is. I mean, a couple inches and pipelines aren't the same.
I got ups. I could jump. I could I ball.
Yeah, those are the things that carry gasoline and oil across the country. Like, what are we talking about here?
You thought it was like a combine? You had to do jumps and see how high you jump. Like, I'm not trying out for football. Vertical. Anyway.
Yeah, so if you're talking about business on the sales side, that took some learning. What we were doing over on the IT side, you kind of have to. At some point in time, if you're on a team that small, you have to be involved in that, right?
Oh yeah. So you've been on the vendor management side, right, or been involved in projects, probably. Like went through buying stuff and
doing RFPs.
Yeah. So you saw the customer side of that to flip. But you're right. The management of it when you come over to a manufacturer, sure, it's a totally different mindset, right? I think we probably all agree that we've gone through that. That was a change, even though I say I had that class. It was a glimpse into it. They didn't teach me sales acumen.
So I'm curious, Chris, did you say you did end up going to like MIS? Did they do sales process classes at that point? Because I do know some people that are in the industry on the sales side, not the engineering side, that have been through like formal trainings through like college and such, which I found fascinating. I didn't even know it was a track.
Yeah, mine didn't, because like I said, they kind of combined it with communication, networking, IT. It became IT management. What it did though, because I actually switched colleges at the time too, and when I was in computer science, I was in this College of Sciences. And this was in the College of Business. So what it did was give me supply chain management classes, business classes as well. So they weren't teaching them in the IT classes, but part of the College of Business. And that's actually when my brain started going, man, this stuff's really interesting too. Like there's some cool stuff that goes on here in quality management and supply chain and just the business side. It's when I really started realizing I like more of the business side. So I got a little bit of that, but I was going to say, I was actually going to say there, when I first came over, the first thing I did, because having a couple of decade tech background, my first thought was, oh, I'm going to start working on some soft skills here or learning sales processes and those things. So I wasn't necessarily forced into it. That was more my brain going, this is probably what I could beef up on. So I did some of that. But yeah, just being part of the College of Business gave me some of that.
Yeah, that's similar.
But no one ever
went
went
classes
through
in
like
finance, and why you justify projects, and how business gets stuff funded and things like that. I think it's big.
Feels like so
soft skills
long
side,
ago,
like
guys. I don't. I'm like, I remember learning that stuff, but I feel like the bucket's overflown with technology knowledge now, and that stuff that stuff went somewhere else.
We have archived that data, as they say, and
right.
I don't know how long it'd take me to get that back. I have it on tape.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
it's in Glacier right now.
It's funny.
It's in Glacier.
I was going to say, I archive that stuff to Google now, right? Like,
right.
It's too expensive.
I'm at critical mass. There's only certain things that'll fit in this old brain anymore.
It's going to take me about 48 hours to get those objects back.
Yep. And it's going to cost a lot of money, so we got to decide if we're going to do this.
Anyway, so
there's an IT joke. Look at us.
Be funny in IT.
These freaking nerds.
IT dad jokes.
That's what we are, nerds first and foremost. Do you? So okay. Any more on that part of the journey, Joe? Before you came over, or?
I mean, I'm sure I'm missing things back there, man. But I mean, the big thing was the constant learn. I always wanted to be learning. I always was looking for the new thing. What, and not even just it was more like, what can I learn from every single one of these SEs that comes in and gives us a meeting, right? What can I learn by going to every single one of these? So if you're somebody that's out there and interested in becoming an SE, my advice when people express interest in it is get yourself to as many of those events as possible and see what SEs are doing, right? Talk with them about what they're doing, see what they're doing, and go watch those presentations. Those are the things we have to do. When I first got into being an SE, I was scared to present in front of people, and probably only done it twice in my life. I think my second time was presenting for my interview, and they're like, "Oh, you're a natural. You'll be fine."
Really?
I'm like, great, because I'm peeing my pants.
Glad you think
here.
so. Yeah, glad you think so. And then eventually you could just do it from a sleep, right? You could wake right up and present. So
now it's we've been cooped inside so much. It's it gets exciting. So wait, we get to present to somebody? Oh my gosh!
Please, can I just talk?
I left the house yesterday. It was kind of cool to see people.
Yeah,
in the community again. It's
been crazy. My kids have been sick probably. One kid every other week for what seems like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Taking turns.
And it's
really?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
outside world's scary.
Yeah. Their doorknob licking habit has to go away.
There's another tip for everybody out there.
Yeah. So, I know that, this show's called the SE Journey, but it kind of seems like maybe the journey would end as you become an SE, but it doesn't really, right? You just keep working. I think we all keep working as hard as we can. I like what you said about we all have goals, right? And we want to further ourselves, but I like what you said about my focus at the time is always about doing the best at my job that I can. Right. So, I like that you said that, and I was just gonna say, anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, no, on that point too, when I first came to Veeam, I really struggled on putting together any sort of professional development plans. And one of the reasons for that was when I would be asked by my management at the time, hey, what do you want to do? I mean, my answer, and I was 100% honest about this, was I just want to be the best SE that I can be. Well, what do you want to do, 5 years from now? Be the best SE I can be.
I'm here.
I'm
here. Yeah.
But I would say along the way, Zane, we learned other areas where we could help out. Right. And I loved doing that stuff. I dug, doing the exam review stuff. Always loved getting involved in other stuff outside of just the SE role. And I think a lot of us gravitate to the SE role having sort of that same attitude toward everything, or at least maybe just the people we hang out with in our circles.
Yeah.
We all seem to
But it seems like that, doesn't it?
Only people we interview here. Yeah. No, for sure. Like finding projects that kept me learning something new or helping another team. Yeah. If I could do that, I tended to gravitate towards that. So I get that. But you're right. You're like, but I am an SE, so I don't know. I'll just be a good one of these, right? Isn't this it?
Yeah, right.
Do anything else? Yeah, yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Is there more?
Yeah.
And you,
I mean, that changed after I was got there. I was around for a little bit, but I think that for me was a little scary moment. Like, hey, I don't know what next steps are.
Yeah.
I just found this SE role and I got into it. I didn't know. Yeah, now there's a world open to me. That
right,
I'm
exactly. And you're still kind of learning
and
that world at the time, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what's interesting as we go more to these interviews, especially I have someone like you that, we've talked to people that have been at different companies. That's kind of cool. Like, oh, I did this role, and then I figured out I really like we had Bronson on here, and was basically product management SA. And he went to SE, like kind of another swing, right? Like, yeah, I really liked the customer one, and this is why I love being here.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that until you're, 5 years into the career. So it'll be interesting as we move along in these, like learning that, especially people that maybe jumped, 3-4 companies or something like that.
Yeah, man. And
unlike,
you guys,
unlike this
so
panel.
you guys kind of went from kind of being the SE to right, like being direct customer involved. It sounds like Chris, you were getting deep over there in the Veeam stuff with Pure. Are we not allowed to mention names? Yeah. Sorry, we have to beep beep.
No, my
we're not sponsored by anyone.
Gives it away.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh yeah, good point.
No, you're right. I think more of a specialist, right?
Yeah.
So my title's still field solution architect, so I'm still the field facing. Now I'm more kind of the liaison between the field and our testing and product management, specifically for data protection. And yeah, so I get kind of the best of both worlds. I'm getting a little more specialized, but I still get to do that, the enjoyable field things, talk to customers, things like that. And really Zane's about the same. He just does it across the portfolio.
Nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the best parts of SE at a a different level. And but you've got to start getting into those soft skills, like how do we help others, not like what we're kind of trying to do with this, like enable them, like, oh, this is how you should be thinking, and here's some tactics or things we're seeing across the field or across the nation or whatever, except for Chris is like worldwide, but I have more of a region. What we're kind of seeing as trends, so that you can be like, oh, that's something I can incorporate into my, the SE can say I can incorporate it into my purview, my tools in my focused area, but still getting to present and talk to customers and, lab work when we want to, things like that. So pretty great. You did Veeam for quite a while, backup space, and now you're
security.
Yeah. You told us you were at ArcticWorks, so you're at security. So you kind of went complementary.
Kind of, right? I mean, I look at it
different
as
focus, different conversations. Yeah.
It's sort of the same right, kind of the same conversation, but a little bit different, right? And in the backup space, we're planning for the worst, right? We're still planning for the worst, but we're looking at the front end of this attack vectors, whereas on the back end, it's a little bit of back end attack vector protection.
Less of the last resort and more like the hey, let's.
Yeah, we're trying to be the front end, where before we were kind of the back end, last resort.
Yeah.
And I think for me, making the decision to make that switch was, I looked back at my career and said, hey, all these different times when I made changes from one sort of tech to another, digging into stuff is when I grew the most, right? And when my knowledge base grew the most, and when it was becoming more well-rounded in that space. And so, being in the backup space, I felt like I was, had pretty decent knowledge in the backup space and best practices in that. Hopefully I do, since they tossed us on the team to help out with that exam.
Yeah, I think that just says it right there.
But
of course, you're going to be blamed for everything wrong because you left. I mean, that's just the
right.
I mean, that's all of us, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's the way it
You're
works.
the last guy out. It's your fault. So you have to get over that.
No, that's
true.
6
from
months
IT all the way.
only. That's the cutoff time before you have to stop blaming.
That's right. That's right.
Right, or at least
I
needs to
feel
go down from there.
That's right. It's not my fault no more. No, that's an interesting point. So I like your clue too. I don't think some people will probably disagree with that, but yeah, I went. Chris and I went from
Back up to storage.
Storage, really, right? Though we could argue we're a software company, but storage is our focus. Different conversations, but at the backup company, you were kind of the intersection of a lot of things. So you used to tell people Veeam's not hard. I have to know all these things around Veeam and how I work with things. Mm-hmm. Pure's pretty kind of like that as well, right? But we're having different conversations, different part of the data center. Maybe not Chris, because Chris talked about storage with Veeam, but in backup. But hey, why it's relevant. But again, like you said, you building on that previous knowledge of, oh, I used to be here, and these are the conversations. This is what's important, and this is how that's important with our new product. I'm just kind of building blocks in the stack, and just like
and that's a good point. When
they building blocks.
When you become an SE, right? Like you're not gonna. So like if somebody thinks they're going to go to, let's say, I mean, I guess you could go to like VMware and be just a specialist in one of their product areas, right? And just concentrate on that. But for the most part, even when you're a specialist in one of their product areas, there's still a lot of complementary product areas that you have to have an understanding for. And I don't think I would argue, regardless of what SE role you would move into, you're still going to have to know the ecosystem around whatever product you're going to be responsible for educating people on. And that was kind of
just to know where you stop, right?
No,
where it's relevant.
And it was interesting coming to Veeam is like, man, there was a lot like outside that those other product areas, and we knew a lot about. I mean, not just Pure, but all storage stacks out there, right? Like we had to have kind of a general, pretty decent base knowledge of all of it,
or go find it. Or figure out who to
or know where to find it, or know to call Zane if it was something with Zane or Chris with Pure,
or spend those hours, learning it.
Yeah, I mean,
yep,
you're right. Not only do you need to know storage, there's networking, there's Hyper-V, there's vSphere, the different Hyper-V. I mean, so all that stuff. So yeah, being well-rounded and knowing those periphery and solutions are important.
And I used to like to say in the region I'm in, it's probably why my blog is named the way it is people seem to try a bunch of different things. You'd be like, hey, we do these things, so how do you work with that? And I'm like, I've never heard anybody do that before. Oh, hold on. I'm glad I could Google. And then, then you had to figure out, oh, I understand what you're using. It's really related to this. Draw on my past experience. Okay, this is how I would best work with that. This is how I could help you. Putting those things together. Yep. It all matters. That's why you got to keep learning. This isn't this isn't a job for those that if you don't want to learn, right? If you don't want to grow, don't.
Well, I was going to say, I think and not that I've worked for a ton of companies, but the few I have on this side and that I've heard from you guys, it seems like most companies over here in these type of roles want you to keep learning. So they're very helpful, and they really help towards your self-education. I haven't been at a company or heard any of you say, oh yeah, they don't want me learning. They don't want me learning this, or they won't pay for me to take these classes. It's usually that they do, right?
Yeah.
They're willing to invest in you.
And give you the time. Yep. So just take advantage of it. That's the best part here.
Well, cool. Any other segments, Zane, or any other thoughts? Or?
Well, I think, no, we've got to go to the end here. One question we like to ask, we might have actually missed it on the last one, Chris, is if you care to share, we talk about learning a lot. You kind of hit on the fact that learning requires you to mess things up. If you have a time that you remember, you could give us your biggest win if you want, if you don't want to be ashamed, but your biggest failure. I think the failures are fun to learn from.
Oh yeah, failure stories are fun.
Something goes wrong, how you dealt with it, and maybe of course, I used to say frustration equals learning, right? Pain, gain, right? So those are the best teaching moments.
Yeah, no resume generating events, so we can talk about it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, the resume generating ones, maybe we save those for the for the outtakes.
So where were
behind
you
the
this
scenes.
whole year, Joe? Like I was off hiatus that whole year.
I can honestly say I never had any resume generating events happen in my IT career. So,
Okay.
However, I have had some doozies. I mean, one was let's see. Do you guys remember the early days of UCS? Are you guys familiar with you know UCS? So Cisco UCS, right? In the early days, that was the first time that oh my gosh, I can configure a profile that has all of my HBA info, my network info, everything that I need in order to have a VMware host ready to go on this piece of hardware and deploy out 30 hosts at the same time, and it was awesome. Except
automation, right? Computer IT is all about making my job easier and being lazy, right? At the end of the day, like I don't need to do these tasks. Yeah,
right. We call it, they were almost describing it like a layer of virtualization back then. It really wasn't a layer of virtualization, but whatever. So it was, and I was that was another project where they needed somebody to, hey, we need somebody to go sit in this meeting. What I didn't realize was that it was a full week-long UCS training. And so I raised my hand to go sit in this meeting and got a week-long UCS training, which is pretty cool, too. It was another opportunity where, I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Came out with some learning, some skill. Yeah. Nice.
But anyways, fun fact, on the early days of UCS, if you clicked on something, in most GUIs, you click on something, it doesn't automatically execute that command, right? You usually have a save command or something to safeguard you from really boning something up. On the early UCS GUIs or software, they did not have that safeguard. So if you told it to do something and let off the click, if it was detrimental, it just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, so I removed all the profiles from the wrong cluster, from our production development cluster versus our, the other development cluster I was building. And it was one of those moments where I clicked it.
Instantly knew?
I didn't instantly know. I was like, I looked back over to the left-hand side of the screen. I was like, oh no, I have the wrong thing selected. I was like, oh no, did I really just click on that? Okay, let me go look. I'm looking at the logs, nothing comes up. And I'm like, okay, maybe it didn't. Maybe it did. Maybe I misclicked and I clicked off of it.
Yeah.
No, then all of a sudden, all the logs start flowing. I can see all the commands start going through. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm looking at them. They're starting to go offline. And I'm like, oh no. Jump up out of my chair, sprint down the hallway to where the other guys are at. I'm like, hey, all your stuff's about to go down. And sprint back to my desk. And
they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They're looking at it. They're like, no, I'm logged in, right? No, I'm not logged in. Joe!
Yeah. Joe. I gotta fix it.
Try to fix it. And that was another one of those times you have to wait for all the code to execute before you can do anything else.
Yeah.
You can
go back.
My hands were tied until it was finished.
And then you put it all back. Yeah, luckily.
In some weird way, that probably gave you a little credibility, though. They're like, look, Joe made a mistake. He came running down here to tell us right away. Because other times you're sitting around the shop going, hey, who did what? And nobody wants to speak up, right? And you're like, I'm not.
No, I don't know why it didn't work.
Not here to punish anybody. Just here to fix the problem, right? So good on you for being like, this is happening.
We had a ton of those, times when something goes wrong where it results in lots of bad things for all the IT people around. Like, I know our fax delivery system one time, there was a buggy code in our telco provider's website that shut down some of our circuits somehow when my coworker was just clicking through the website. All of a sudden, everything goes down. And they brought it back up for us, but they tried to blame it on us, and we're like, no, I was watching him. All he was doing was like clicking through the website, and all of a sudden everything shut down. They're like, well, it says here you executed this, command. We're like, no. Eventually they found a bug in their website that was doing this.
So as you click through, it just started executing like kill commands. Like
it was taking circuits offline. It thought we were trying to it was executing commands in the back end circuitry to flip
awesome.
circuits over, and we weren't
it's a feature,
telling it to
not
do
a
so.
bug. It's a feature.
It was their nice new GUI website that we could do this on.
Oh wow!
Well, let's go take a look at that, and then all of a sudden it just starts doing it. We're like, whoa!
Yeah. If you look at it, you must have wanted it. No.
Well, that basically resulted in like millions, not million. Well, probably close to a million faxes all backed up. We had to kind of hand deliver to their own printers.
Oh man, yeah.
You had to manually move them through the queues at that point.
Oh wow! Oh really? Like from queue to queue?
Yeah, because there was the fax delivery software is also acted as a middleware software. So yeah, it was a fun night.
Fun.
Wow.
I didn't do that.
All right.
I wasn't the one clicking.
Those are
around,
good stories. It's how you react to things, though. It's how you fix things. It's how you that's how you're measured, I think, in IT. So it's the same, I think, when you translate it to SE, as we've talked about here, right? It's your follow through, running through, getting the solution the way it is, making sure your customer's taken care of. You tie it off. You're getting everybody. You understand, like we said, everybody in that meeting, in that stack, everything, all the needs are met, and then delivering on it, and then. Your reputation's built on, my opinion, that you have that follow through, that it's always good. You're doing what's best for the customer, right? I mean, obviously we're all skewed towards our solution. We think it's the best. I'd like to say we join companies that we truly believe that, because I have. But, at the end of the day, you also want to make sure it's best for them. And then that's why people are going to trust you, and you're going to be successful in this role. That's my PSA for the day there. And
Nice.
But thank you for sharing the story. I don't know that everybody's willing to do that, but I do believe the mistakes are how we learn the best, and they're kind of funny. Now, if you do it all the time, the same mistake, well, then that's a problem. But learn from your mistake, get better the next time, and maybe learn from others. Right? I used to watch my managers and be like, "Well, I'll not do that because he went through that.
Yeah.
Went through that. So I'm going to not make that mistake. I'm going to go make my own." And then hopefully my people I work with, they'll learn from those, right? Yeah.
Well, we kind of had a joke around the office too. It was like, well, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. Which is kind of you do kind of have to push yourself to that. Be pushing yourself toward that edge where, hey,
oh yeah,
I may make a mistake. I'm giving myself the freedom to do so. Let's hope it just doesn't, don't have to hit the generate resume
educated
button.
Decisions.
Yeah. Be careful still. How about that?
Get a teeter that line.
yeah.
You want to push, just don't push too hard and fall off the edge.
Yeah, that's right. Sure you can come back. All right. Well, we appreciate the time here, Joe. Glad we can make this happen. And
yeah, guys.
Joining us all the way from the middle of the country, other side of the country, whatever. I don't know. What is it like? Super late over there, so remember, it's a lot later than it is here. So appreciate it. Oh, that's right. What am I talking about?
Wait, what time is it there? You're only a couple hours back, aren't you?
I have no idea what time it is. It's been quite a week.
Yeah. No, appreciate it, Joe. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and
yeah, absolutely, guys.
Thank you for sharing, and
keep in touch.
Maybe as you.
What conference or something am I going to see you at next? What's the
That's right?
The next big one.
I
for you
hope
guys?
to do one of these from a conference. We got to do a
Hopefully.
conference. If we get enough people there, maybe we do like a stop by. That'd be fun. But
I don't even know what's going to be in person next. Honestly, Joe. I other than I'm working towards going to VeeamON just because
I was going to say I heard that's in person. Yeah,
that's right. Since you're the backup guy up here, you get to go over to VeeamON. I like it.
Well, we'll see. I'm pushing for it.
He's more likely than the rest of us. Yeah. Yep.
I don't even know if they know if it's going to be
in person
yet. I mean
I
it's
got a
planned to
survey
be
that
hybrid,
asks.
So
Yeah, hybrid in person. Yeah, so I think maybe an air of it, or they're checking that out.
So they had a hybrid VMUG someplace here in outside of Columbus, another down south. I guess only 9 people showed up in person. So I have a feeling we're drifting toward more remote,
Virtual.
at least in our area.
yeah.
That could be a whole other topic. I see the value.
I want to be out in
remote,
front of people. I want to do this in person.
but it's 100%. I think that's what draws us to the job. Plus, there's nothing like I think two parts, and not that you asked, but customers coming to it are actually able to dedicate the time to it, right? So as a customer, like, I'm going to this conference, I can be here in it. Where it's virtual, you can be in many different ways, right? I mean, that's hard, right? Hey, well, I'm at my desktop and I can attend now, but I'm also doing my job. And then be for us too, right? Having a conversation,
sitting at a computer, you're gonna inevitably get sidetracked or do your work
Do your work,
So.
Whereas when you get to go, you're actually dedicating the time, so it's hard. And that's the same for us on our side. I can have this human conversation with you about something and really see if help you with the solution. Plus, you get to see everybody you haven't seen in a while, right?
Yeah, Joe. If there's any good conferences that come up that on your side or about, let us know. I'm excited for those things to start again. So
I know, right?
But super thank you for your time. Of course, we've been wanting to do this. Really happy you shared your journey and some stuff there with us. And anybody else that's still stuck with us over an hour now. Awesome. Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone. Joe, I hope you and
have a great one.
Everyone and Zane.
We'll have to put this podcast out in a timely manner now, Chris. Thanks for putting a timeline on it. But yeah, happy holidays.
We'll catch up soon.
All right. Yeah, we're going to follow on your journey, right? We're going to see how you go as you progress over there. So let's definitely catch up soon. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone. Bye. Till next time.